because it's not about your perception of me. It's not about if the background is beautiful enough. It's not about if the lighting is perfect. It's about my words. It's about you receiving the wisdom that I've lived this past year after leaving my home in Berlin and coming to Mexico to continue to follow my life purpose. That's what it's about. It's about the energy that I bring through this channel, through my words. And when you're open to it, and when you've been called to this video and your heart is open, that you get to receive as well.
Was geht? So this week's episode is a continuance off of last week's episode 2.1. I got 2.2 now. And it's a continuance because I am still sharing more of my own personal experience so that you get more of a rounder picture of who I am, who your host will be when you're tuning into this podcast. And my intention is that by sharing my personal experiences, by sharing my stories, is that you find something that resonates with you from my lived experiences that is speaking to your own, or maybe even receiving confirmation that you've been looking for to continue trusting the unfolding of your path and taking those next scary but exciting steps. So without further ado, this week's episode is about the 10 lessons I learned from leaving my life that I spent 7 years building in Berlin, all within 1 month, and finding freedom, creativity, and so much more juiciness in coming to Mexico. And intro.
The first embodied lesson after giving up my life in Berlin for my freedom in Mexico is to be honest, to be really honest with yourself. What's coming up? Where are you feeling called to go? How do you feel around that specific person? How do you feel living in that specific space, that specific city? The number one is honesty, and not necessarily that you have to change something directly, but to just be so radically honest with being radically honest about your truth, your true authentic experience that you are living inside of yourself, no matter what anyone else on the external is thinking, because this is definitely an amazing way to heal self-abandonment. Self-abandonment meaning like when we disregard our own feelings, when we disregard our own perceived experiences because we feel it's invalid and that someone else's truth or someone else's perception of the experiences has more worth or is more valid than our own. So first one, being honest with yourself, it heals your relationship to yourself. Número dos, listen to your body, also known as your intuition. Oh my God. Honestly, the first day I got fired, I received this letter from the physical therapy clinic in Berlin because I was sick, saying that I was fired. I didn't need to come back after my sick days. I remember just going to the shower after processing it and like feeling this complete peace. Oh, it was just like peace and stillness inside of my body. So clear. All right, I'm moving to Mexico. And like being able to follow that information or being able to receive that kind of information from your body is it's so vital for your personal and spiritual growth. Why? Because your body is an access point for your intuition, your soul, your heart to really communicate things to you, to let you know when you're living in alignment with your highest, most authentic truth or when you're not living in alignment. And there's no shame in when you're not. Like, life is a constant balance of moving in and out of what feels like an alignment. And the reality is, like, I don't think we can ever just be completely aligned, because we're humans and we're here to have opposing experiences so that we gain more clarity on what it is that we do want, what it is we don't want, and ultimately serving our growth. Because the person I am today is definitely not the person I was a year ago. Listening to my body was also super essential for my own well-being and health. I lived in Tulum for 6 months as well. And there were just incidences where I realized, okay, the place where I'm at right now, like, it's affecting me energetically because of the way that this community speaks, because of this really, like, this lack mentality, this scarcity mentality. And that's, again, not to judge anyone, or not to say that I also wasn't in there. I mean, we attract ourselves to situations for a reason, you know? Having done my personal work and being in the process of my personal work, I was able to be conscious of, oh, okay, that's no longer the storyline I want to give myself. I want to keep feeding myself that I'm scarce, that I don't have enough of this or that. And so, because I've done so much work on connecting to my body, I was able to receive and feel that information in my body, that I didn't feel light and expansive. I felt like, you know, like a closed chest, maybe even pressure in your chest, maybe tension in the shoulders. And these are all important information from the body that something needs to change, that I'm not feeling fully expressed. I'm not feeling fully calm. I'm not feeling trust. And so that allowed me in return to make decisions to leave those environments and trust myself, trust trust that signaling from my body that it's time to leave. Because this is another important skill to have. Know when it's time to leave, right? There was something that's on Instagram, like, know when it's time to leave the job, the party, the relationship. And these have all been something that I've learned, lived, and practiced myself, is knowing when to leave. Removing yourself from situations that are no longer uplifting you, right? Or removing yourself from situations that are no longer inspiring growth within you. Lesson number 3, nummer 3, planning is everything, but the plan means nothing, nada. It's good to have a plan, you know. It's good to have a plan, it's good to have goals, so that you can help your mind focus in on where you want to put your energy, where you want to put your creativity, and so that we're not overwhelmed with all of the things that we can be thinking about or working on. So specifically, in the last year, I had only the plan to move to Querétaro, well, which is funny. Before I actually moved to Mexico, I originally thought I would be moving to Querétaro because this is where my parents have their home. And then, like, a week before my flight, some things happened. My parents had to return to the US. And for whatever reason, my dad's like, okay, I don't know if you can be in the home. So then I was like, I have a plane ticket to leave my life behind in a week. Like, what am I gonna do? And then at that same time, I had a friend who was a childhood friend who was going to be in Mexico City for that time, living there. And she mentioned, like, hey, you can stay with me. And so I had to pivot, right? I had to change and be like, okay. So I perfect, because the plane ticket that I have, it has a stop in Mexico City. So, like, I can just get off there, have them change my bag so I can pick it up there, and, like, no big deal. I go to Mexico City. That was the plan until literally the day before my flight. I wake up already fucking nervous of, like, oh my God, what am I doing? It's so easy to make a decision, but when you're actually, like, going through it and living that transformation, that shit's hard. That shit is uncomfortable. So the day before my flight, I wake up to a message from my friend like, hey, I have some things I have to deal with back at home, so I'm actually leaving Mexico City. And I was just like, what the fuck? What am I doing? What's happening? Like my plans are not working. So then I went back to the original plan, right? Because I still had that ticket to Querétaro. I was able to work things out with my parents, stayed at their home. Perfect. And yeah, I didn't have really any other plan of like, okay, what am I gonna do? I just know I wanted to focus on finishing my coaching certification. I know I was being called to Mexico. I just wasn't sure where, what part. As I was finishing my spiritual life coaching certification, I felt like something inside of me wanted to celebrate. I was feeling called to properly celebrate myself after all of the mental, emotional, spiritual growth that I was going through. Mind you, I had also just gone through a breakup at the same time. And so whatever, something called me to look up Airbnbs in Tulum, and I found one. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not really that called to Tulum because of the things that I hear, but it's fine. I'll go for like 4 days, go to the beach, celebrate myself. So I did. And 2 days before my flight to Tulum, I actually got an offer from a past friend I used to work with to do an exchange as a yoga teacher and just stay there, to stay and live in Tulum and see how I liked it. I could have never planned that. I could have never planned that I would be moving to Tulum. And in that way, I could never plan that someone was going to offer me a position where I would have all of my basic needs met and I could practice something that I had really loved and trained in. Number 4, don't be afraid to try and to pivot. In Tulum, this is where I was really tapped into my creative juices because I had my basic needs met, right? Because I had my basic needs met, I was able to tap more into my own creativity, into what it is, how I was wanting to help express spirituality. And I met a friend there and we started a project together called Mindful Beats. He invited me to be a part of his sound healing to actually guide the meditations. And then from there, we experimented more. I really wanted to bring dancing to the table because this is something I'm absolutely in love with. And I know that I give people energy when I'm dancing. It's just something I can't explain. But so we created another form of experience, but also therapy using electronic music and dancing, where again, I was also guiding the session, and it was so beautiful because it gave me so much confidence to be able to practice my creativity, to bring my ideas into reality and to ground them and to actually have consistent positive feedback about what people were feeling in these sessions, whether that was sound healing and meditation or whether that was soul moves, dancing, having a live DJ, And it was great and it was amazing. And I felt my body tell me I wanted to leave Tulum. As much as I loved Mindful Beats, I didn't feel that collaboration was in total alignment and can really take me to where I personally felt like I wanted to go. So I made that big decision to end the project, to end the collaboration with a friend. And I could have been like, oh, I failed. I put so much work with this person into the name, into thinking of ideas of how we can grow it. But instead, I really took that as like, damn, that fucking showed me like what I can bring to the table and that people love it. And that I don't want to be doing this on the beach where people are already on vacation, but I want to bring it into the cities where people really, really need it in their everyday life, where they can practice it in their everyday life, where they don't need to go to fancy resorts in order to have access to this. So trying something And then being able to pivot and change allows me to get more and more clear on what it is that I want to express, what it is that I want to offer, and how. And where am I being called to? Where do more people need it? You know, where is it more effective? Like, this is just movement, and life requires us to move. Life requires us to grow, to expand, to try, to change, to edit. This is a natural part of life that's so essential for our growth, that is so essential for our confidence, our well-being, and it's essential for expressing our life purpose, our dharma. Number 5 is your mindset can be your best friend or your biggest block. One of the most powerful and important lessons that Tulum taught me, which if you've ever lived in Tulum, if you've ever stayed for like at least a week or so, you know what I'm talking about. But your mindset is so powerful. Like, the speed in which your manifestations come through in Tulum is crazy. Like, if you think of something, shortly after it can happen, especially if it's an idea, especially if it's a belief generated by fear, you will attract that to you very quick. There's so many people, so many crazy motorcycle accident stories, so many people were getting dengue, like almost everyone you knew was getting dengue. And this really taught me to strengthen my mindset, to really be conscious about the thoughts that I was having and the emotion that was generating or driving those thoughts. I knew I couldn't live from a place of fear, because otherwise I was going to attract those motorcycle accidents. I was going to attract having dengue, anything. So really Tulum helped me be more disciplined in my mind, in my thoughts, and not get lazy and allow myself to go into negative spirals. So this kind of education allowed me to embody how to bring myself back into balance when my mind naturally goes to one direction or the other, and having to force myself to keep myself balanced, keep my thoughts balanced, because I was not down to experience those things, you know? And thankfully, things went well for me. Number 6 is safety first. And what do I mean by that? I mean that innate sense of safety that lives inside of your body, that no matter where you are in the world, no matter who you're around, no matter what the external experiences are, that you have the capacity, that capability, that training in how to consistently return back to your sense of safety, to your safe haven, to your inner refuge that lives within your body, you know? Being able to really calm yourself, be grounded in yourself, in your sense of security, in your well-being, in trusting that you've got your back. You are gonna guide you. This has really helped me move throughout the world, not just the last year, but in general, like all the different countries I've traveled to, all the different people I've met, all of the different situations I've been through. Always coming back to myself and feeling safe within myself allows me to explore life more, explore myself more, connect to different people, and learn through these people. Number 7, the satisfaction of doing the work and knowing what you bring to the table. Like, I cannot be more and more thankful to Sammy and all of the crazy ass decisions she's made, and all of the heartbreak she felt, all of the times she messed up, all of the times she had to pivot, all of the mistakes she made and she learned from. Because man, all the money that she invested in herself and getting to know herself, because man, now I know exactly who I am, what I have to bring to the table, what is my life purpose, and how specifically I want to express it. The first years when I was working on, you know, building a coaching business, I thought like, okay, spirituality has to look a certain way. And so I was spitting back images of what I was finding on Instagram, you know, with neutral colors, very feminine, all of that. And it wasn't working, and it wasn't me. It didn't provide me that fire and that passion that I know you guys feel now, because now after continuously investing more and more time, energy, love, money into myself and my own spiritual growth, my own well-being, I have like narrowed down onto, this is how I want to be of service, and this is how I want to express it. This is who I want to be. These are the people I want to be surrounded by. These are the settings I want to be surrounded by. I love electronic music. I love my friends who are DJs. I love dancing with my friends. I love being in that environment when you just have that DJ who's going, who has such an amazing set and is taking you back to remembering who you are, remembering the love that lives within your heart, remembering the love and the connection that you feel to your friends, to your family, and really like embodying that. And this is what I'm so clear on now, thankfully, for doing the work, for putting in those hours of investing in myself and being curious on what is my life purpose and how do I want to express it? How do I get to be myself? How do I get to bring myself into my career? So if that's something that you yourself are interested in exploring, I'll leave a link below to my calendar, and honestly, we can just talk and get to know each other more. You can tell me any questions you have about your own life purpose, where you're at in understanding and also living and expressing your life purpose, your dharma. Number 8, creativity is sexy. I struggled with confidence for a very long time, and even today, you know, sometimes I'm just not feeling my confident self if I'm getting too much in my mind or if I lose that connection to my body. But having practiced my creativity, having trusted my creativity, having shown my creativity without needing it to be perfect or to be validated by other people, has made me feel so sexy, so attractive to myself, because those are just like ideas that come through to me and I get to put it out into the world. I get to provide something to the world, to the community, to myself. And for me, that is like that creative energy, you know, that lives in our sacral. Like, honestly, I can go like weeks feeling really turned on because I am connected to that energy. I am connected to my creativity. I'm no longer allowing that blockage of like being an artist or being seen as an artist or having my work validated. Like, creativity is so much more than just the aesthetics of it, but the energy behind it, right? Like, what drives you to share these words? What drives you to share these images? What drives you to share this music? All of the energy behind it is what I love, and that's the sexy energy that I get to feel when I do share it with others. And so the way that I got to express it, or the way that I get to express it, is in how exactly I want to share spirituality with the world, and that's through who I am, which is just, I love music, I love dancing, and this is how this is what I want to spend my life doing. So just trusting that there's also people interested in that. And I found over and over again that there are people already interested in mixing these two fields. There are already people doing it. There's people who are curious about it. There's people who really, I always get positive feedback on it. That's such a cool idea and people would love to see how it turns out. It's also sexy because you get to let your inner child come out and play and like express itself just for the hell of it, because that's what we're here for, right? We're here to create. We are all creators. I don't care what you say. I've also had that artist wound where up until recently, like last year, I didn't think I was creative. I didn't think I was an artist. And that was only because I was comparing myself to what mainstream media shows us what is art, you know, what is valid to be considered as an artist. So healing that artist wound is super possible, and I would say it's very essential for your journey, for your spiritual journey, for expressing your own meaning and purpose. Number 9, you're not crazy. Throughout this last year, I've had so many synchronicities. I've had so much guidance from my own spirit team where I literally thought I was fucking crazy. Like, this cannot be happening, or my experience is invalidated by this person, or my experience is invalidated by this setting. But I just want you to know you're not crazy. Like, those things that you feel in your heart, not in your mind, not like fantasies you're having with your mind, but that feeling of resonance that you feel in your heart and your body, where you're like, I don't know why I'm being called here. I don't know why I feel connected to this. You're not crazy. There's so much that happens in the spiritual realms and in the 5D that it cannot be explained in this material world or in this 3D world. And when you learn to trust those feelings and stop bypassing those feelings, or stop allowing other people to influence your feelings, you again secure that sense of grounding within yourself, because you are no longer allowing yourself to be swayed by other people's decisions about your experience. So again, I'm not talking about when you're like creating stories in your mind or like thinking things, but when you really feel that resonance in your heart around whatever's coming up in your life, but it doesn't mentally make sense, that's normal. And it's great if you can lean into that. It's great if you continue to allow yourself to trust that, because then you're in a state of energetic flow and life can do its thing and things can start to work out. Die letzte, number 10. Done is better than stalling. I myself have been a perfectionist, although I never thought anything that I created was perfect. And still I was that perfectionist, because I would stop myself from putting out podcasts. I would stop myself from practicing DJing. I would stop myself from so many things because it wasn't right yet, or I wasn't good yet. I wasn't great yet. I wasn't perfect at it yet. And through healing my relationship to myself, through really learning to listen to my body, to build that sense of security within myself, to trust myself, I am able to take more risks and to just do the things like I'm doing here with this podcast, keeping it simple and still showing up and still knowing that I'm worthy and still knowing that it's going to be effective, because done is better than perfect or than stalling, because it's not about your perception of me. It's not about if the background is beautiful enough. It's not about if the lighting is perfect. It's about my words. It's about you receiving the wisdom that I've lived this past year after leaving my home in Berlin and coming to Mexico to continue to follow my life purpose. That's what it's about. It's about the energy that I bring through this channel, through my words. And when you're open to it, and when you've been called to this video and your heart is open, that you get to receive as well. And this is why I do what I do, not for likes, not for you to tell me how beautiful my channel is, not any of that, other than to just be another point of access for you to relate to someone who's real, relate to someone who speaks things that you didn't even know other people were experiencing, speak things you didn't even know how to put into words. And that's why it's so important for you to also just start. Take one step after the next, because there's so many people that need to experience you, that need to feel you, and that need your wisdom. All right, so those are the 10 important things I've really been embodying in my life since leaving Berlin in 2023 of February, and now living in Mexico. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier, and I'm just continuing to follow where my heart takes me. So if something really spoke to you in this podcast and you're interested in exploring your own life purpose, or finding more about spirituality or about the things that I'm saying, click the link below. It's a free call. Like, we can just talk and get to know each other, or just bond if we already know each other and talk about whatever came up in this podcast. Thank you